Today we got a special one. My guy Silas Barksdale, 6'9", skilled athletic forward, putting in some work behind the scenes this year. You got that chip on the shoulder, you want to just whoop us every day? Or?
That is definitely what it is. A reason I followed Coach Odom to Virginia is because I was one of his first calls after he realized that he was moving on. This is the words I told him: I don't want to be coached by nobody else.
What's up, y'all? We're back with the Good Old Hoop podcast with Corner Media. I'm your host, Devin Tillis, back again with another one. Today we got a special one. My guy from the 757, Newport News, 6'9", skilled athletic forward. Putting in some work behind the scenes this year. Gonna get better and looking to make an impact at UVA. My guy Silas Barksdale.
Yes, sir.
How you doing today, bro?
I'm good, man. Just got here out of class.
What's it been like, being at UVA for your first year so far?
Man, it's been really different, coming from where I'm from. A lot of different people, relationships are different. And just being able to see the college lifestyle and how, everything moves and operates. Just school in general is different. So, picking up books, like reading books, like I'm not used to that, I'm not used to reading books at all, to be honest.
You like LeBron? You like, this is a good book? What's your favorite book?
My favorite book, man. I'll say anything by Dr. Seuss, bro. Like
One
Green
Fish,
Days
Two
in
Fish,
Ham,
Red Fish, Blue
That's all I
Fish.
really know, bro. That's all I really know. So.
I'm glad to hear, your time at UVA, your first year has been going great. But I want to, let's backtrack a little. Let's go to high school. Let's dive into the hoops more. So in high school, you were one of the best players in the DMV. Obviously you won a bunch of awards. You beat a lot of the good opponents that were out here. What was fueling you back in high school? Was it pride, trying to dominate and be, the best that you could be in the state, or, be the best in the country, or, was it just like something fueling you that you had that dog in you from the start?
That's a great question. I feel like it's just the dog in me, the people I had surrounding me. My high school coach was a big, impact in my life. And, he influenced me to be my best self, even when it came to high school, UIBL, or any type of circuit I played on, as well as my parents. I just, wanted to play hard at every chance I got to play. And, basketball was just fun to me. I never thought I would come this far, to be honest. Randomly, I grew tall and started taking more serious. I was more so a multi-sport athlete, played baseball, played basketball, and football. So football was really my main sport. Quarterback. I had an arm.
You was nice at football.
I was nice. Wide receiver, quarterback. Played a little bit of DN. My high school coach, my parents, they were really my fuel, and that's really what got me where I am now.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Family's always been like one of my biggest things. Being able to make my parents proud was always something cool. I also just wanted to be like my older brother.
Yeah.
So like being able to, because my brother played Division II basketball,
right.
Being able to see him play college basketball, I was like, I wanted to do that too.
Yeah.
Now, back in high school, you obviously played with Boo Williams.
I did, yeah.
So you were on the UIBL circuit. You led all players in rebounds, I think, your last year, right?
Yep.
Especially in Peach Jam.
Yep.
What was like the first moment in your AAU career where you're like, I should really start to take this serious? Like I'm one of those dudes for real.
So around 15U, I wasn't my best self. I had no type of confidence. That's when my knees were the worst. Like I couldn't jump, I couldn't touch the net. I barely touched backboard.
Man,
the twins, man. Man. But yeah, 15U was a hard year for me. I played with Team Loaded my 15U year. 16U year, I moved over to Boo Williams. I had a great year. I had a tournament where I was averaging almost 20 points a game, also 12 rebounds. And then 17U came around. I was one of the best rebounders in the country, just being physical, being able to crash glass every opportunity I got, and just playing hard.
I think that's like a skill set that's super valuable, rebounding. That's one of the reasons Coach Odom brought you here, because you're such a valuable rebounder and you got a knack to go get that ball.
Right.
Now that you're at UVA, what's kind of been the difference between, high school basketball and college basketball in your experience?
Definitely the physicality, as well as, just learning the system and just playing basketball in general. I never would have thought that basketball had this much information into it. Like watching film every single day and, it being 40 minutes film session, practice being 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours before the season. I never thought it would be like that. And just being able to realize how important it is to just play defense more than offense, and also just maintaining like the easy things and like not realizing that it doesn't come all simple at the end of the day. So just learning from, my vets and, just being able to grow and become my best self, taking this advantage this year. I'm just continue to do what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, coming from high school, I think I remember it was a lot different because in high school you have a couple periods throughout the day where you got, classes isn't too bad, and then you practice for like an hour, and then you just play. Yeah. What's it kind of been like juggling, the college schedule with, school academics and basketball now?
I thought it would have been much harder. Mm-hmm. I adapted really fast. Realizing that I would have class early in the morning, sometimes lift at 7 in the morning. I never was an early bird, so I never really wake up early. Yeah. I had a hard time in the summer, setting over 10 alarms, trying to just wake up. And just realizing that, my best will come. And if I continue to work my hardest and, believe in myself and continue to follow Coach Odom and, just believe in him and all the coaching staff, I think I can become my best self for sure.
Yeah, you kind of talk about this adaptation piece, what's it been like, adapting to our team, coming in from high school, in high school, you the loudest voice in the locker room, the loudest dude in the gym, especially your last year. That's when you're like leaving it all on the floor, coming in as a first year on a team with a bunch of new guys and also, a lot of older guys, what's it been like trying to find your voice in the locker room, and how have you kind of accomplished that?
I would say more so, just doing what I can when I am on the floor in practice and, being able to have the GAs to work me out. I think so, like, it's more so me just, learning instead of, having a voice. I just want to learn and, talk when I need to talk or when it's most useful to talk. And, I don't have a big role as of right now, but hopefully I will sooner or later. And I'm taking advantage of the year I have been using. And so, just been learning instead of, using my voice.
I think my sophomore year I redshirted. Mine was partially because I got hurt, but I remember how tough that year was, mentally, physically, just all of that, because you're doing a lot. You're probably, a lot of people don't know, but you're doing a lot more, kind of working out and grinding and trying to get right for, when you do have that opportunity for your name to be called. What's like been your way of, staying present, staying in the moment, and constantly impacting the team when your name might not be called,
Right. I would say just believing in God, and also just being able to have my mom close by and listen to her, and she gives me a lot of words, and she tells me that it's going to be all right. And I think just being on a scout team in general, it's helped me learn, to maintain plays and just, play different people's roles, like learning like new game styles and being able to play in different ways. Like I feel like that has helped me grow in many aspects of the game, shooting wise, post wise, defensive wise in general. We play a lot of defense, and I feel like that's helped me. And I wanted to, be my fuel, like you mentioned in the beginning, to just keep working. And I've been definitely taking advantage, like I said, of this year of continuing to work out, maybe 2 times, maybe even 3 times a day, before practice, after practice, and sometimes early in the morning, just to give the most I can out of this.
Yeah, I mean, I've already talked to you about it. Like, obviously, this year's harder. We got a lot of older guys. Right. But like, I think next year, the coaches are really expecting you to, make that leap and that jump. And like, I've been like really impressed with like your constant work ethic to, and drive to just keep going. Because I know it's hard. Like, obviously, it's always going to be hard. And then, so you talk about this piece, like you get to play against guys like, Tess, me, everybody on our team who's been around college athletics this whole time. Like, kind of what's it been like playing against us, every day in practice? Like, you got that chip on the shoulder, you want to just whoop us every day? Or?
that is definitely what it is. Every practice I just hope I can, improve and just learn and show that I can really play basketball. And I feel like playing against you both has helped me improve in many ways, just using my body differently and, just learning from y'all's game, and just realizing that, like, it's a lot of talent everywhere. Like, I never would have realized how much talent it is around the world, and like just being how much information is around the world as well. Like, you yourself, a very smart basketball player.
Thanks,
Tess as well.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, Tess, a very strong, athletic, plays hard. I feel like that has really helped me in my mindset in general.
And, we've kind of talked about a lot of like this development for you and, just becoming the best player that you can be this year. For you, what does growth look like? By the end of this year, like, what does it look like for you going into next season?
Hopefully, I can be able to say that I have became much stronger and gained a few pounds, as well as becoming more of a repetitive shooter, as well as a better finisher, more athletic, and just hopefully my energy, I'll become more comfortable. I've had a hard time with just being loud on the floor in general or around y'all in general. Hopefully that'll change, and I've felt it change just building a relationship with y'all. And I'm expecting to just continue working, and I feel like my work will show eventually.
Yeah, 100%. That's dope, bro. And I think everybody has noticed like the jump you've made from when you first got here to now. Like, I can tell you're much stronger. I mean, knees are doing much better. Yeah. You got to check them out, windmilling and stuff in warm-ups.
Yeah.
But, I'm just proud of you, and I think I can't wait to see you grow more and more as you go on. Now I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. So we're getting to like your upbringing with basketball. So like you said, you're from Newport News, place where, basketball is a big deal. A lot of people care around there. I think we talked about this, like in your high school, every school felt like almost like a rivalry game in a sense, where everybody just wants to go watch and show out. But kind of let's get to before that, who kind of introduced you to basketball, and like, what made you really want to, just pursue this dream?
I would say most definitely my father. He had a lot of basketball dreams growing up. He could not, pursue them goals due to, his challenges in life.
Yeah.
But, he has gave me the power to, pursue his goals, and as well as my own goals. He wants to see me win, as well as my brother, my oldest brother. I was a lucky one. I was the tallest in the family.
I got lucky too.
He's 23 now, and he's 5'10". He was a great basketball player, played hard, shooter, but that's really it. He never really got to play in high school or nothing. But he just wants to see me win, as well as my mother. She was never really a sports person. She played softball, but knows nothing about basketball. The mothers that, try to give you the information, but don't really know what they're talking about. That's the mom she was. And, just as well as my high school coach again, he was a big part of my process.
Yeah.
And just,
Yeah, so it seems like you had a pretty good circle around you. Who's winning one-on-one, you or your brother?
Me for sure now. Growing up, it was always him.
What's crazy is I still don't think I could beat my older brother in order. He'd find a way to beat me.
Yeah.
If it was, we had a referee there and it was clean basketball, I probably would win.
Yeah.
But like Brandon Tillis, if you're watching this, you're a cheater, bro. You don't even want to play with one-on-one. But anyway, so you grew up in a house full of siblings,
right.
So there must have been some crazy competition at all times. How do you think that, kind of has shaped you as a player, or like the competitor that you are today?
Man, it's just, I feel like the words my parents and my brothers have always put in me, just everybody has gotten in fights with their brothers. I feel like that's built the toughness in me.
Yeah.
And just being able to realize that, no matter what, you can play hard if you really put your heart to it or your mind to it. And just realizing that I want to, be able to say that I was a big impact for my city, and, being to realize that, when I go back to the city, people know who I am, and people realize that, you know, I worked hard for this, and, you know, I want people to know who I am. And I would say just realizing that, you know, things could change, like knowing where you come from and like how hard things could be growing up or how easy things could be. Just playing with a chip on your shoulder and just realizing that, you know, you got something to prove.
Yeah, facts. I think, you know, it's like a blessing that we get our job is to come in and play basketball every day.
Facts.
And, you know, a lot of people aren't lucky to do that. But we have been fortunate enough to do that. So I think it's the best that we, you know, put our best foot forward and give back to like our community, like you said.
Agreed, sure.
You know, so like every Hooper has had somebody they've, you know, kind of looked up to, grew up watching, or like modeled their game after. Do you have like a certain player or person that you modeled your game after, or you kind of looked up to or watched when you were growing up?
That's a great question. It was actually before my time. You know, I've always been a Jordan fan. You know, he obviously doesn't have all the film in the world.
You didn't watch no Michael
Yeah,
Jordan.
obviously I didn't, but I watched the highlights of him. You know, my dad, you know, he sold him into my mind. My oldest brother was a LeBron fan. But recently, you know, I've been like, my favorite player has been like somebody like obviously Wemby. Like he's a great basketball player. Kevin Durant, Jokic. Like I don't have nobody that I model my game after personally, but I love watching those players and just realizing that they have come from something and they have worked hard to be where they are.
Yeah, you know, I tend to model my game after LeBron James. A lot of people say I play just like him.
Well,
head above the rim type of guy.
I think so too. Bro.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I
could agree.
For the haters, you know, I don't know what you guys aren't seeing.
It's just when the cameras are on.
Exactly. Yeah, the cameras weren't rolling that day.
Yeah, they don't be rolling.
That's what I'm saying. Now, kind of getting into your like recruitment. You know, you were originally committed to VCU, also for Coach Odom, right? So, like, walk me through what it was like getting recruited by Coach Odom. You know, just take me through that recruitment journey of, you know, being recruited by all these schools, committing to VCU, and then ultimately coming to Virginia with Coach Odom.
That's a great question. I feel like Darius Diaz was a big impact to my commitment, as well as Coach Odom and all the other coach staff. You know, they love my game and how hard I played and my rebounding skills, as well as they know that I work hard enough to improve in every aspect of the game basketball. And Coach Odom was, you know, he called me a lot, and they had the advantage of only being an hour away from my hometown. You know, they could drive every other weekend, come watch a game or two. And I feel like that was a big part of the reason I committed, you know, being able to see them every once in a while and realize that I'm close to home. And the reason I followed Coach Odom to Virginia is because I was one of his first calls after he, you know, realized that he was moving on. And I was like, I told him, like, this is the words I told him, I don't want to be coached by nobody else currently. And I don't regret my decision. I love Coach Odom, how he plays. I love his game style. I love his personality in general. You know, being able to go to his house, you know, with Owen and just chill sometimes and be around them and just build a relationship with them. I feel like that's a huge reason why I'm still here to this day.
Yeah, I mean, I think for everybody that's kind of been a common theme is how, you know, genuine Coach Odom was when he, you know, recruited us. Like he shot us all kind of straight and gave us the real. And I think at the end of the day, we all trusted him. And that's why we all made that decision to come here. You know, being recruited out of high school as a kid, you know, or teenager, not a kid, but, you know, it can be hard. You know, what was it like mentally, you know, having to juggle all these phone calls, you know, everything going on, especially nowadays too with the whole NIL aspect of it. Right. What was it like mentally just dealing with all of that?
It honestly wasn't the worst thing for me. I wasn't recruited by a ton of schools. Like, it was a good amount, but I didn't get a whole lot of phone calls. You know, it was mainly text messages, and that was hard to keep up with for sure. You know, I'm already not the best texter, and just being young and realizing that this is very serious and like it's not no joke anymore once you get to this level, and just, you know, being able to realize that this is an opportunity to, you know, grow and do what I want to do for a living. And yeah.
Did you always kind of feel like you were going to stay in the state of Virginia?
No, to be honest. Really? I never really thought I was. It's a blessing that I am. You know, being 2 hours from home, it's awesome. I mentioned before, like, it doesn't even take a full tank of gas to for my parents to get here and back. So that's really nice. And yeah.
All right, I know I kind of asked you this, closer to the beginning of the podcast. But now that you're at UVA, what's it just been like settling in? What was like the first moment for you that like, geez, I'm in college?
Right.
I mean, obviously that's like a weird question. Like, obviously you get on campus, you get in your dorm, you're like, okay, I'm in college. But like, what was it like? It really hit it when it really hit you.
It was actually very hard for me, man. Moving into a dorm, like I had to share a bathroom with 50 other people in the hall.
I never had a dorm. Yeah, Shout out COVID.
It's honestly, I really don't like it at all. But I do in some parts. Meeting people around grounds. It's really nice, and realizing how many personalities people have, and like how many people come from, what they come from, where they come from, is very interesting to me. As well as just adapting in general. In the summertime, I had a very hard time. Actually, I came home almost every weekend, drove home.
Yeah, I remember.
I left after practice on Friday, came back Sunday night, maybe even sometimes Monday morning before lift. And it wasn't easy for me. But now it's just
normal. It's routine,
normal,
right?
I
remember my first year. So I went to UNLV. So I'm from California, so different state.
Right.
I couldn't go home, but I wanted to every day, bro. So I feel you for like, especially in your first year too. It's a little different. Now I've been in college for 6 years, so it's like, all right, I'm good. I'll be all right.
It's not easy.
All right, now let's kind of get into this segment where we can let the fans get to know you off the court. So I've asked everybody this, on Silas's day off, no practice. Henry's not texting you to come shoot. MC not hitting you to lift. You just get it.
Rare, bro. Rare.
On your full day off, what is Silas doing?
Man, I could go step by step, man. I like to go to sleep late if I know I have an off day the next day. Just staying up watching a show or something. I love watching TV, maybe even movies. Waking up maybe at 11, maybe sometimes 12, just rotting in bed.
Yeah.
Eventually getting up and getting my life together. I like to be productive eventually. Like I'll go drive around, just do something. Go explore something. Like I said, watch movies. Eventually, maybe even just hang with some of my teammates. Just chill. Like nothing crazy, man. Like I don't really have a whole lot I be doing.
Is it true that you're a creative writer?
I used to be. Yeah. I was in high school. I wrote a lot of poems, papers, like things like that. But I dropped it, man.
Were you like a rhyming poet or like?
I did a little bit of both. Like
you were haiku poems.
Yeah, I was good at like love poems and like things like that. Yeah,
love poems.
Love poems.
So you were.
Man,
you were a lover.
I was a lover.
So you weren't just writing poems, love poems. Yeah. Obviously, you weren't just hooping. But back in high school, you also were giving back to your community. What sort of things were you doing in the community to just kind of give back and show that you cared?
We did a lot of things a lot of people do, like the car washing things. Giving back to the homeless. Me and my teammates and sometimes parents. We went to stores and with kids who don't have the opportunity to get clothes every day or new sets of clothes, and we took them to stores and just bought them clothes. And it was some YMCA stuff. They do a lot of kid stuff, and that was a lot I did, and I enjoyed it. I went bowling with some veterans that had disabilities. It was pretty interesting, but it was very fun. And things like that.
That's
really,
pretty dope.
It was.
We've already, I think in the summer mostly, because we had a lot of time, we were doing a lot of like going to the shelter, stuff like that, meeting new people and just giving back to our community. Right. Do you see that as something that you're just going to continue to do for the rest of your life?
100%. Even, if basketball isn't in the image 20 years from now, I think I will continue to do that just because I love giving back. Yeah. I love seeing people with a smile on their face regardless of anything. So
I think it makes us feel better when somebody else feels better about something we did for them.
Yeah.
So I've been asking the guys, kind of about their music taste lately too. So on game day, what are top 5 songs that you're picking to play?
I can give you top 5 artists.
Okay, fine. Top 5 artists. You get the aux at the party.
I got great aux. I play a little bit of YoungBoy. I've been listening to YoungBoy a lot lately. my workouts. It turned me up a little. I like a little chill. I like Tim's. That's a great artist in my opinion.
Yeah.
Drake, top 5 all time. Lil Baby sometimes, he fell off a little bit.
Fell off.
And I know somebody don't like that. I love
G Herbo's
G
trash.
Herbo, man.
G Herbo's tragic, bro.
He's not trash.
Don't put G Herbo on around me.
G Herbo is great.
He's not great.
I think he makes great music. That's what I listen to though. I like chill. I like relax sometimes.
Yeah.
It depends on my mood, what's going on during the day.
I feel that. So like every one of us has a role on the court.
Yeah.
Every one of us not necessarily has a role off the court,
Right.
but we all have our own personalities. What's kind of like your personality in our locker room?
What you mean by that?
Like, how do you interact with guys? Like, you more just like the laid back, chill guy? Are you the crack jokes guy?
I definitely have my moments.
You know what? That's a hard question for you. I can answer that for you.
Yeah.
Silas he's more the laid back, chill guy, but he loves to crack a joke here and there.
Yeah.
He keeps things light.
Yeah.
Everybody loves him. So
Yeah, I like to, troll a little bit.
definitely a troll, rage baiter.
Rage baiter for sure.
100%.
I like trolling people like Hugo. He's easy to troll.
Ugo's very easy to troll.
EG, is pretty funny guy. Martin is very easy to troll. It's hilarious. Even some of the managers, things like that.
Yeah, and Coach Odom has made it a thing that we needed to get connected to each other and connect to the place. Obviously, UVA is the place. But like, what's kind of been a moment where, you were really like, wow, like we're connected as a team. Like, did you have any special memories of us so far or anything like that?
I feel like, my first few weeks we went bowling. That was a great time for me. I feel like we snapped into it. Like, it was just first day I walked in the locker room ever. I felt connected to everybody. It was a little awkward. Obviously I'm young, coming from, high school now, playing with older guys. It was very different. It was weird for sure, but I feel like everything came together the right way.
Yeah, I feel like it was pretty easy too. I mean, I think one of the special things that we did as a team was that the DC trip.
Yeah.
We gotta go watch a baseball game. We got a bunch of dinner together.
Right.
I mean, it was pretty fun, and I think we got super close during that time too.
Agreed.
From being around the team, every single day, obviously, like we mentioned, film sessions, practice, weight sessions. From your perspective, like kind of what's been the energy like in the locker room, as we continue to attack ACC conference play?
I realized that everybody seems to be very locked in for sure, but we also, stay happy and joyful. We all still joke with each other, have fun, enjoy ourselves. But it's been very locked in. Everybody wants to win. Even losses, you can tell that it hurts. But we continue, we move on quick. We improve. Seeing the things we do to help us improve is awesome. Helping me learn that the little things can really help. You being a voice is very helpful for everybody, as well as Dallin. Just being a voice, a leader. I feel like that's been the main thing.
Yeah, 100%. And everyone begins to shift gears. When conference play starts. Conference play is always usually the hardest. I mean, obviously non-conference, we still play a bunch of really good teams, but every game kind of matters when we get to conference. So roles tighten, roles expand. People just tighten their mindset. What's for you kind of going to be the day-to-day, and how have you evolved since the start of this season with your mindset?
I think I have evolved just by realizing that I can be very impactful to every player just by, giving, helping them out and, just standing up, dapping up when you come out and get subbed out the game. I think little things like that I feel like can help. Obviously you're locked in or upset that you're getting subbed out sometimes, for a mistake. But I feel like uprooting the person, it helps a lot. Wow. And even though you're locked in and may not think of it in the moment, it could come back to you, or even just being mentioned later on after the game, can be very helpful. Just things like that,
Yeah, so when you Silas Barksdale, you look back at year one, you already have kind of this story that's been built. It's taking shape still. You still have more pages to write. Kind of what's one thing that you've been proud of this year of yourself so far, and then what's one thing that you're hungry to prove to everybody?
I think I'm very proud of how hard I've been working. Back at home, it was hard to, work out a lot, get in the gym a lot, but every opportunity I got to, I did. And, being able to get in the gym every day now, it's been very helpful. And I feel like the hunger, the drive in me now is just being able to prove that I can play basketball, like for real. Mm-hmm. And I'm a really good player. I can play hard, and I can impact this team in positive ways. And yeah, I'm very excited to see how far I go.
Yeah, 100%. I'm super excited to see how far you go too. Yeah. I've like I said, I've been happy to see how you've grown. I can't wait to come back and just be like, that dude's one of the best players of the ACC. Kind of like my last question. UVA, it opens a lot of doors. You built a lot of connections. Mm-hmm. You met a lot of people. Who has kind of been somebody that's kind of been influential in your time here?
I would say, being able to meet somebody like Ralph Sampson, like that's awesome, first of all. And, him speaking to me every time he sees me has helped me a lot, realizing that, it's a lot of people who really care about this place. And, it has helped me care about this place even more. And just taking his words in, learning from him, him coming in every once in a while, even, Coach Odom's father, him having a very big impact on our team. I feel like he comes around a lot. He always has good things to say, and he keeps it real with you for sure. He always keeps it real.
Definitely keeps it real.
Very real. And I really enjoy that, and realizing that there's a lot of people who believe in us in our journey so far, and we're going to keep it going for sure.
Is there anything else that you want to leave the fans with today before we wrap it up?
Let's get this ACC. Let's turn this ACC up, man. Let's keep winning, and let's win March Madness, man. Let's do it.
I think that's a great place to wrap it up.
Yes, sir.
Silas, thanks for coming on.
Sure.
I had a great time talking with you. Can't wait to see how you grow. Like I said, Who's fans, don't be afraid to hit that hotline. Ask some questions. I'll answer them. We'll answer them. Whoever's on here will answer them for you. Until then, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is Devin Tillis with the Good Old Hoops podcast, Wahoo Nation. Peace out.